Rainer Marais. My company is called Studio 1980 ZA. I've been in the jewelry industry for 23 years. I started my apprenticeship as a goldsmith when I was 18 years old. And from there, I went on to, well, always being a goldsmith, but at the same time also doing sales in jewelry retail stores, managing retail stores, managing workshops, all of that. And then in December of 2018, I started my own company, largely just designing. I was really, really tired of after 20 years of sitting in shopping malls, working for bosses. I set up a home office, and that's where I do all my work from, for my private clients, for my B2B clients, everything. Quite happy not to sit in a shopping mall. So yeah, and then from there, I always wanted to be a designer, but back in '98 when I started, it's not really a job that existed. You know, maybe the big mass production places, they had designers, but typically your goldsmith would be the one who drew you a picture, and that would be your design. But when I started in the industry, my goal was to be a designer. But like I said, there wasn't really a job like that. And then 20 years later, thanks to CAD and the changes in the industry, that's actually now what I do finally. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting, because look, when I'm looking, I have like a document where I have my introduction back, because I'm doing this kind of job many times, so I have it. And while you were talking about your experience, I think that it's pretty similar to what happened to me. So I have been also working the jewelry trade for from when I was 18 years old. Yeah. And I started in the jewelry trade as a setter. So I was setting many jewelry pieces. And, there was these times where jewelers were bringing you a big piece of metal and saying, I want a pavé here. So I had to get, and make all the holes, try to get all the holes, the same distance between all the holes. And this was quite, a lot of pain on doing that. And then suddenly come out all these CAD software, and I said, man, I need to learn this, because this, at the end of the day, CAD software is mathematics, and they will give you exact the hole where you want it, and it will tell you how much metal is going to stay between the two holes. So this was one of the main reasons that I get into the CAD software. So
CAD definitely changed the entire game. It changed everything. I think in a big way, handmade, with all due respect, is very near obsolete. When I started off in the industry, we were all about handmade. That was the only way. Anything that wasn't handmade, we looked down on it. But back then, it was deserving, because the only guys who casted was guys who mass produced. I don't know what it's like overseas, but in South Africa, you get all these chain stores with really low quality products. And that was our problem with it. We believed handmade is the only way you get quality. And back then it was a reasonable statement. But with the introduction of CAD, and you can produce once-off pieces, I think the quality is far superior to handmade. Your symmetry is perfect. You don't have a single solder line on it. It's just, you can't deny it. The only place where I still see a use for handmade is for your very simple, very heavy pieces, where your printing cost might outweigh your labor cost. But I mean, that is so rare. It's really on something like a bangle, a plain bangle, or a plain wedding band. It might still be worth it to do it by hand. But other than that, I firmly believe that CAD is the way to go. It's the way of the future.
And I totally agree with you, Rhino. And it's true, though, that still you need the jewelry skills. So something is, when we are talking about handmade, but it's good also. And look, with CounterSketch, we have all these parameters that is telling you how far you can go, and it's helping you a lot when you are building anything. But you I need that it's important to have your jewelry skills, and the combination of these two walls is what makes you succeed using the
definitely. I think the most important quality that a designer can have is experience as a goldsmith. Simply to know the proportions, the proper proportions to make a piece, thickness, versus the width versus your claw thickness and all that. I think that The only way that you'll have that knowledge is if you have bench knowledge. So yes, it certainly is very, very valuable. And I mean, the setters will agree. You design a piece, you give it to the setter, they know if you're a goldsmith, because the
Yeah,
pieces can be set, because they know, you know, the parameters, you know,
there is
the
enough
requirements.
metal.
Yes, so that's definitely quite valuable. Yeah.
And I think that is worth to mention that today that we are talking about CounterSketch, CounterSketch is a very, very good partner when we are talking about this. Because
Yeah.
as you know, in Gemvision, we have two different softwares, and we have MatrixGold and we have CounterSketch. MatrixGold, you don't have you don't have all these limits that we are adding in CounterSketch. Of course, that you in CounterSketch you can go with freehand, and there you can start to go wilder. But
Yeah.
if you want to make your first pieces, you can go to the libraries, and you know that everything that is in these libraries is producible. So you can send it straight
Yes.
away to manufacturing. And I think that this is very, very important to talk about CounterSketch, because many times, as I said, because we have the two different softwares, and MatrixGold, you don't have any of this guidance. So in MatrixGold, you have a path. You can add a profile in this path, and this profile will be the piece of metal that you will have. We are not telling you how thick this piece of metal needs to be. So if you want to make something 0.01, we will allow you to make it in MatrixGold, because at the end of the day, you can do anything that you want. In CounterSketch, you cannot do that, because we have all these stacks, or we have all these sliders where we are telling you how far you can go.
Yeah, I would say CounterSketch definitely subscribes to at least the minimum requirements. So if you want to add more, you can. But if you pull something out of the library, it is print and castable. You can just produce the piece from there. And I think that's great for shop assistants and people who are not necessarily designers, who don't have any goldsmith background. They can show a customer a piece, and right from there it can be produced. But freehand is definitely my biggest tool in CounterSketch. I started off on freehand almost immediately, because I like that freedom. But the advantage of the existing library is how quickly you can produce renderings for a client. I can sit with a client briefing me on the telephone, or while they're in front of me, and at the end of their conversation, I can show them something. You know, they want a solitaire or they want a cluster. While they're talking, you can pull up examples and show it to them almost immediately. And also the format in which you're working, that it already looks like metal. You can already add the color. You can add the type of metal you want. It makes it very easy for the customer to grasp, as opposed to a bunch of lines that's not in a metal color. So there's definitely the advantages. It's there for designers, but even for shop assistants, people with no design or goldsmith experience.
And I really, really like you talking about this, because I feel like CounterSketch gives you the full solution. So one thing that we hear a lot from our customers is that they won't differentiate themselves from other competitors. So many times what they have on their windows is pretty much the same. So you were talking about shopping malls. When you walk in one of these shopping malls and you look to all these windows, many times you see pretty much the same. So
definitely.
Having CounterSketch is a very, very good add-on for your business, because you can go and say, look, we have all this library that at the end of the day is all these kind of pieces that we are talking that everyone has in their windows. But from there, we can start to make something very, very specific for you. So you are designing, as you said, right beside your customer. And we know that, because at the end of the day, we have statistics about how many people is using CounterSketch and how many sales they are submitting, or how many models are submitting. And we know that from the moment that a customer sits beside you and in front of CounterSketch, the sale has an 80% of success. So this is something that is very, very important to us. We know that CounterSketch helps a lot to sell jewelry and differentiate from your competitors.
Yes, of course. And the clients also finds it quite engaging. Like I said, because they see everything happen in front of them. And even something which I don't use a lot, because I use consultation much more, but I think a very, very handy tool that it has is the quiz, where if your client doesn't really even have an idea, it's a couple sitting down and she doesn't know what she wants, and you take the quiz and it's you're almost guaranteed that they're going to be suggested, that there'll be something that they like. So it's just packed full of all these handy tools, and it makes the process engaging for the clients as well, which I don't think other programs have to offer.
No. And, you know, and this is something that Matt Staller, the company's owner, really come out with. And he said, we need something to engage. He knew about Matrix and Rhino, but he said, we need something more for this kind of business, you know, you cannot sit with a customer using Matrix Goal because he only will see just curves and, you know, something that we know that is metal, but they don't see metal there. Instead, with CounterSketch, is something specific to design and sell in front of your customer.
Yeah, and even from a design aspect, for me, it helps I enjoy seeing the color of the metal in the design. And even as I go along, I'll change the stone color to the stone that I'm going to use. And even for me, it helps you sort of get a picture of it and direct. Like I don't have to draw anything on paper before I start on CounterSketch. With your Rhino, Matrix Gold, all of that, you kind of need a guideline. You need a paper sketch or something first to start off with. Whereas with CounterSketch, it all happens in front of you, and you can sort of develop the idea as you go along in the program.
All right, fantastic. That's a very, very good introduction. I think that it helped a lot to get an overview about CounterSketches. Now, Rhino, what I will do is I will share my screen so we can show the assistants what options and what CounterSketch is. So let me share my screen. All right, so I'm just going through the website. Anyone can log into gemvision.com, and within the products we have CounterSketch. And here in CounterSketch, we explain a bit, you know, an overview about CounterSketch, what features CounterSketch has. All right, so you can go to the home. Here we have live sessions if you want to assist, or you can request a trial in case that you want to try test it for 15 days. We also have 2 ways to purchase, and then I will finish in the store so you can see how you can purchase CounterSketch, but you have 2 ways to purchase CounterSketch. One is getting the perpetual version, what you make a payment and you get CounterSketch, or you can go and get the streaming. So the streaming, you pay a monthly subscription and you have access to CounterSketch. As we were talking with Rhino, we have the freehand and the design libraries. So combining these 2 aspects from CounterSketch is what it makes it so powerful. The freehand parts is there is plenty of freehand parts, and freehand parts plus all the functionality that these freehand parts have can help you to build, at the end of the day, almost anything. You can start from a Staller. You can also go to Staller and look for the models and the reference that you will have in a Staller. You can also look for it into CounterSketch. So you will find the model in CounterSketch and then you will be able to start to modify it. We also have Ever and Ever. Ever and Ever is displays that we have, and this is something that is very, very helpful. So there is many shops who are using this. So you can get this from a Staller, and you have the samples, the physical samples made in alloy, because sometimes, you know, you have your customer. We are very, very used to watch all these models within the screen, but sometimes for the customers it's not that easy. Then it's good for them to have something to touch and compare with what we are designing in the screen. So this is something that also helps a lot to sell. From features, you have also, you can have access to the diamond stock that we have in the Staller, the gemstone. You get the pricing. It's very important to tell that you can get the pricing with your own markup. So when you are in front of your customer, you don't need to go behind the scene and make, you know, all your numbers to give a quote to your customer. You can give it automatically because you have all the markups already in that price. You can also share it when you have it in streaming. Today is very easy to share the screen, actually, is what we are doing today. And as I was talking, with a few sliders, you can get any result that you want. So it's very intuitive. This is why it's so successful, because people can start to design from the first day. Of course, that you need to learn the software if you want to make more intricate designs. But from the very first day, because you have all this library with just a few tweaks, you can get your first pieces done. We have the what's new. This is what the last release that we got. This was the last year. So as I was telling you, is more connections to all the stellar gemstones and diamond stock, and lab-grown diamonds also is important to mention now that they are becoming more and more popular. And now what you can also do, because many people is asking, you know, to build their own brand. They want to have, as you were saying, Rhino, you have your own brand. People knows you because you have your own business. So now with CounterSketch, you also can customize your main screen. This is very nice because you can put your logo there. You can add a few models or the models that you have from the portfolio in one of these styles. So we have so many designs in CounterSketch, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. So depending on what area you are, for sure that you have a style that the customers are looking for. So you can get all these styles and put them in one of these styles from CounterSketch. So when the customer is coming into your shop, you can give them the experience that they are looking for. We have a few tricks for the render. The render, as Rainer was saying, is something that helps a lot to let the customer realize what he will get once the piece is produced, because are very, very good renders, very realistic renders. You can get a hand so the customer can realize how is the ring going to look in their hand. So this is something that is also very, very, very useful. All right, so this is system requirements. Anyone, if they want to get the CounterSketch, here they have the system requirements. And then if I go to the store, let me just make the filter for CounterSketch store. And now here, products, I will go to CounterSketch. And this is where you can see the different options that we have. So we have the CounterSketch streaming and the CounterSketch perpetual. This is what I was telling you. This is just to have access to CounterSketch, not owning it. You pay a monthly subscription after an initial free payment, or you can get CounterSketch. And then once you get CounterSketch in full, you own it. And then you can do anything that you want with CounterSketch. There's different bundles in case that you want to learn it. We have the online academy that is very, very, very important. I think that is something that helps a lot to start to roll with CounterSketch. And then something that is also I advise to get is the what we call the membership, because we keep adding new models every month, and this is something that it really is this part here. Every month we are adding new models, so if you have the membership, then you get these new models in the libraries. So this is an overview about CounterSketch. And now just to keep talking about what we were talking at the very beginning, Brian. So you told me that it helped you a lot, CounterSketch, because you want to design your own jewelry. CounterSketch, this is what helped you to achieve what you are looking for. And then you were telling us that you have your own studio and then also B2B. This is what you are working?
Yeah, that's right. It's servicing both obviously private clients and also a lot of B2B. So a lot of jewelers would approach me and I do design work for them. And once again, that's where CounterSketch comes in very handy, is how quick it is to show them something. And if the client wants to make a change, which with the B2B happens a lot, you know, because obviously the other jeweler has an idea in their mind. It's so easy and quick to make the changes. And the rendering is so simple. It's a couple of clicks and a couple of seconds, and you have beautiful rendering to send them. Whereas normally to make a change can take you quite a while. In some other programs, to make your shank a little thicker or a little wider or change the finger size, you might have to redraw the shank. Mm-hmm. Whereas with CounterSketch, it's a couple of clicks and you can send a rendering as easy as anything. Every time you make a change, it's nothing to just quickly send them a rendering.
And something that I believe that is important to say is that many times if you are working, and I really like you talking about your work B2B, because a lot of times we drive CounterSketch into the sales floor, you know, to sell in front of the customer, but you're making another usage of this CounterSketch. And I think that is very, very important to mention that, because what CounterSketch allows you to do is easy edits. And I think that when you are doing B2B, you make a design, you show it to your customer, and many times, at least this is what I have heard, many times the customer is saying, hey, Rhino, it looks fantastic, but please, can you touch it a bit here, or can you just do this little edit? With CounterSketch, this is just going there and making and moving one slider or one of the handles that we have in the freehand bars, and you can achieve that, right?
That's right, most definitely. I mean, when I started CounterSketch, the place that I was working got CounterSketch, let's say 6 months before I resigned there. Within my first week, I was placing orders. So that's how user-friendly it is. And from the beginning that I had my own business, I was doing B2B and private work. And it was so simple and so user-friendly that it's very effective. And you're right, making the changes is so simple, and even big changes. You might suggest a shank that they don't like at all, and then you can just go choose a different one or settings. Because I'll always try and drive the client in a direction of what I have in mind for it. Mm-hmm. And if it turns out, no, they don't want something with a lot of detail, they want it very simple, or the other way around, it's very easy to do.
Fantastic. No, I really like this different look from CounterSketch, because as I said, we always are thinking more about the store, but I like to have a webinar where we can say, look, CounterSketch is not just to sit in front of your customer in your sales floor. You can use it also to help other people who has other sales force designing for them. At the end of the day, you will be delivering to them. You will be delivering to them the render. You will be delivering what they want to present to their customers. So you're helping them to make this sale.
Definitely. And another very useful tool is if you produce the file to them, the printable file, to make sure it's a solid and it's boolean correctly. It's so simple because it has the repair mesh tool. And to do that in other programs can take you hours, whereas it's a couple of clicks, it takes a minute or two, and you get the perfect printable file immediately. So there's never problems with giving the client a printable file.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Good. So what do you think if you can share your screen and you can show us how do you use CounterSketch? So you should have somewhere where you can say share your screen.
Let's see. I don't know if this is it.
Then it will ask you what screen do you want to share. You just need to choose what screen do you want to share and share.
Okay. There we go.
And yes, we can see your desktop now.
Have you got it? Okay, so I've already opened CounterSketch. Now, of course, I'm quite familiar with the library and I have my favorites. So whenever I go into freehand, I usually have an idea of where I want to go.
Well,
I did a design about 2 years ago in CounterSketch, which actually won me an award in a design competition. And I used pretty much all my favorite elements in there. So as a start, because I'm quite familiar with the settings, to quickly find the ones that I'm looking for, I like to go to the through finger view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one shows you more about the whole setting. I agree with that.
Yes, because I pretty much know where's the 4 prongs and where's the 6 prongs, and then this is my favorite 6 prong by far. It's beautiful settings. So I know that in the end I'm going to want a color stone. I'm going to make a design with a color stone, so I can afford to bump the size up a bit. So I'm changing that to 8 millimeters. And then let's just introduce the ring rail to see where to put the stone.
So now you have a reference for the finger size, right?
That's always helpful, and I like switching on the guides as well, so that when you're on the inside of the shank, you can still see where your rail is lying. So I'll just move that up to there, and then we can go pick a shank. I want to do something with a very sort of classic look.
Okay.
So I don't mind a lot of detail. This is also a beautiful shank. I really like that one, but I think I know which one I'm after here.
Well, it's good to mention, it's worth to mention that, you know, behind each of these pieces, there is a lot of development from our side. So we
yes,
have
correct.
a fantastic development team that they do amazing job with these CounterSketch pieces.
To go and draw the shank is hours and hours of work.
That's right.
And there it is. And once again, I have produced this piece and it casts perfectly. I've done this one afterwards, and in my mind I was thinking it's going to need a lot of touching up by hand. That's what I thought, but it printed, it was casted, it was finished and polished, and it was perfect.
Wow.
Now this engraving alone, to do this post-production, the cost would outweigh the printing and the casting cost. You can't compare it. So your client ends up getting all of that detail, and all they're paying for is the printing and the weight of the metal, which is absolutely amazing. It gives you so much freedom to offer the client a much more impressive product. Right, so now that we have our shank,
agree.
We can just focus on the placement of this, and that looks good to me. We can change the angle, and that looks good. So like I said, I really like sort of the classic design element. So we're going to add a cluster to it.
And in this shank, can you change also the shape of your
Sorry,
shank? Or
you can. You know what? This shape, I really like it because it gives you a bit of extra weight at the bottom. So if the ring is a little loose on the client's finger, it balances it out nicely, but it is not very popular. Our market, especially in South Africa, is still very, very commercial and conservative. So this would be typically what the client would go for, the more traditional shape. So
yeah, but I like the argument that you are telling us behind, or the reason why you are choosing this one.
So this one I would motivate to my client. Maybe it's someone whose hands are very sensitive to temperature. It swells in the heat, and it goes very small when it's cold. And then that is a great benefit to have that extra bit of weight at the bottom, helps to balance your ring. And aesthetically, I think it's very pleasing and definitely contributes to a design element there. The one thing that I would like to change, personally, I'm not crazy about how it bulges out there. So what we can do is you go to your shank bottom width, which here is relative to that. It's not in millimeters or anything. It's relative to what you see in the middle there. And we just slide it up. Let's take it all the way to 5. And I'm happier with that.
As easy as this.
And once again, this you can do in front of the client. So you can show the client, you can tell them, personally, I don't like the changer. How does that look? The client likes it and it's good. If they don't like it, you just revert. So let's say the client said they didn't like it. I can just click over there and say reset to default, and there you go.
And you can change very easily the profile, right? So you have all these little icons telling you what kind of profile are you going to get.
I mean, it's so simple. It's just dragging that slider, and then if I wasn't happy with that, you can expand your range, and I can take it up, let's say, to 7. And yes, I'm actually happier with that. Right, fantastic. So there we go. So other than that, I'm quite happy with the shank. If I look at all the measurements there, the side thickness, all of that I'm happy with. So let's add a bit of, I don't know what you call it in America, but in South Africa, we would call it a halo.
Yes.
And for that, I've already got a setting in mind, which I really like as well, which is this one. That's a beautiful setting, and it's complementing, I think, to what we have there with the floral engraving on the shank. And this will also introduce us to some very handy and very, very easy to use functions.
Well, and I like where are you going, because you are building, I still haven't seen the final result, but
Yeah.
from just one piece, you are going to build from what you said, a halo. We already have
Yeah,
halos.
that's
We
right.
already have
You do,
halos in
yeah.
the freehand parts, but
Yes,
you are
there are.
showing us how to build your own
Yes,
halo. That is
and
amazing.
because I like the setting so much, and I don't think there is an existing one with it, I'll show you how easy it is. Now, first we can just hide the ring rail because we don't need that anymore. And that's also really easy to do over there. And then I think we can do with a 2mm for that. So we just change it over here. There we go. So now we're just going to more or less place it at the right position. Just more or less. Now we know we're going to want to angle that, but I can't do that yet because as opposed to having it with the 4 claws there, I want to rotate it slightly. So if I click over here, another handy function, just press Shift, and then it automatically moves at 45 degrees.
And Ryan, tell me something. What about the wire thickness? How do you work with the new wire thickness that you got from reducing the gemstone? Sorry, the stone, this diamond. Because when you got the diamond to 2mm, also the wire it's thinner. Do you?
I typically, I believe that quality is equal to durability, and durability comes largely from thickness. So I would indeed increase that a little bit, especially considering making a halo. So the stones are going to be connected to each other. So we can just go over there. And then it's so simple. Right here at the bottom of the screen, it asks for the prong size. So it's currently set to the default, and I'll just see what happens if I bump it up to 0.1. That's maybe a bit, yeah. So we're happy with that. Let's have a look here. There we go. All right. So now I want to angle it somewhat. If you look at it from the side there. So now I know that I've rotated it. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the green slider over here and the blue one. And we'll just do that at, let's say, 10. And we'll take that one also to 10. And then we know that we've done it in both directions and it should be straight. So let's just check that. Yeah, there we go. I'm happy with that. So now we can array it and make sure that we get our quantity and our position and everything correct. So I click on the little dot there until it gives me that sign. That means it's going to give me the options to array it. Click on that. So I can have an estimate. Let's say I think I'm going to need, let's try 12 stones just by moving that little arrow over there. And then we angle it from this side. That looks pretty good. Because of course we want a stone on 12 o'clock and one at 6 o'clock. And that looks good. So now just to make sure our alignment is accurate, we can switch on the grid, which is also very handy. And if we look here now, we can see that we look like we are positioned very well over there. They seem to be touching at the same place. So I'm happy with that. So it shows you how easy it is to use the array tool. You have a lot of freedom where you want to position it, your angle, quantity. Right, so now if I look at it from here, just to make sure that we're happy with it everywhere. Now, I would like for a little bit of extra stability, but I don't want to move it closer to the center stone. So what I'm going to do now is also add a bit more detail. I find that gap there to be a little bit empty, and once again to show you just how handy freehand is.
The other day, because we have, for some promotion that we were doing, I was looking at how many freehand parts we have, and we have 1,400.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So
And they're so handy. I've created engraving patterns with Celtic knots and everything from the library. It's amazingly handy. All right, so we just drag this to the right position. I'm going to want to create a seat for the stones, but also a bit of a decorative element between the setting and the shank. So let's just get that to the right size. I'm just going to estimate at, let's say, 11. That looks like it might be right. And then this side as well to 11. So now obviously that's a bit of a problem we have there, but also I'd want it more in the middle of the settings, so we're going to decrease it. Let's go to 10. I think a little bit more.
And now, you are showing us how flexible CounterSketch is.
And just how easy it is. If I got that measurement wrong in another program, you would basically have to redraw it. You can't just go 3D scale it. So let's see. So over here, I'm not too happy with how it's joining the shank, that setting. So all we have to do is we go to the shank and our shoulder height, and we're going to drop that. And there you can see we're getting there. I want to drop it a little bit more. Same thing here. To change that shank height in a different program would be a lot of work.
Yeah, and something that I think that is very interesting also, Ryan, is that what you have done now with this shank, you can do this with most of the freehand parts that we have. What I'm trying to say is that it's not that this shank is working that way. All the shanks are working that way. From the moment that you know how to edit one shank, you know how to edit the 90% of the shanks that we have in the library.
Yes, of course. And I mean, to make the gap of your shoulders narrower, to change the angle, it usually gives you all those options, and you can customize it to exactly how you want it. So this, I'm pretty happy with how everything is joining. I don't need that setting to touch the center because we have that nice support over there, and you can see how nice and decorative it is and blends in with the design. And then I would like to add the details, which I would have done sooner if the client was sitting with me. Now you can change, I can change the color of the center stone here. Let's see, I'm a big fan of rhodolite, but then it changes the halo as well. Now to individually go and change each one of those to diamond, it's going to be more work. So all I'll do is I'll leave everything on diamond, and then I can take the gem selector over here, pick the rhodolite, and I click all the stones that I want to change. Apply, and we're done. So there, now we've got our stone selection. And now because we're using rhodolite, I'd like to make it two-tone. So I'm going to change one of the layers to, let's say, 14 karat rose gold. And that's what it's changed now. The twist wire, I would actually like to keep in the platinum. So I click there and I go to, I switch the primary metals. There we go. So now I can click on the shank because I want the shank in rose gold, and I do the same. I switch the metal. There you go. And let's say that center setting as well. And now we've got exactly what I had in mind when I started. So we want to see the proportions. The customer, they can't imagine what an 8mm stone looks like. And then that's as simple as doing that. So now, amazing. If I want, you can see the proportions. Let's just do that. The customer can see the proportions, get a very good idea of what it'll look like on a person's hand from all the different angles. And if you agree, I think we're ready to do a rendering. Are you happy with what you see there?
I buy it right now. So let me know once it's ready.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm happy with it from all design elements. I'm happy with the thickness. Actually, one thing we might do, because we have such a large stone there, let's see if we want it a bit higher, maybe. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to increase the height, 0.2. And I was actually happy with where it was, so we can just very easily undo it there. So yes, I think I'm happy with this model. So now I want to show my customer, let's say the client's not sitting with me, I have to email them the renderings, and I want to show them from all the different angles. You get some amazing rendering tools. Once again, I have my favorites. I like the reflective white plane, and I like the light tint for the environment setting. Some cases where you have a broad piece of plain metal, I don't like the reflection I get on the light tint, and then I'll switch to the studio, which also gives you a beautiful finish.
Okay.
So for our first rendering, we want to show them a bit of an overall view. They can see both settings. They can see the detail of the twist wire underneath the setting and the detail of the shank there. And then we just push render, and it's the quickest rendering you're going to get out of any program.
And something that is also something else that is worth to mention is that we also added in the last year's release is that we are already giving you the options to get the image ready for your social media. So if you want to post it in Instagram or Facebook, because this is something that is helping a lot to sell, so you can get these settings, so you can post it very, very easy.
All right, change your dimensions. Yeah, I
Yes,
usually go.
yes.
I usually just go for the maximum dimensions to send the customer the most beautiful rendering, and there you can see you have your rendering. It's absolutely beautiful. And then we want to. This for me is my favorite view to render because you get the beautiful reflection from it. I use this the most for social media.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see how beautiful it renders it. And then we can do one on the hand, and you can show your client what it would look like proportionately to the human hand.
And then with these 3 pictures, they make an idea on what are they going to get.
Exactly. They can tell me exactly what they dislike or what they like, or if they're happy as it is. It's as simple as that. It takes the guesswork out of it. You know exactly what you're getting. The client can tell me they don't like those gaps there, and I know I need to change the setting, or they're happy with it. It's as simple as that. And then, of course, you get your different rendering backgrounds, which are also handy. There's a really beautiful marble one. This one also gives you absolutely beautiful renderings. And the different backgrounds is quite handy for social media as well, or for your website, where you're not looking to get approval on a design, where you can afford to add a little bit of just an element for the background.
Yeah, look at this.
There you can see just how simple it is, how realistic it looks.
And very fast. I mean,
it's super fast rendering. I don't think another program is going to offer you rendering that is this quick.
mm-hmm.
There we go. Beautiful.
Fantastic. Very nice, Reno. I really like the conversation that we had at the very beginning, and how you were telling us, how are you using CounterSketch, how it's helping in your business. I really love the story of you wanting to be a designer, and how CounterSketch helped you on that purpose. So
yeah, look,
it's an amazing story.
There's no way that I could have actually started my business without CounterSketch. I wasn't going to spend another year or 2 learning a different program. CounterSketch, I could do the basics within a week or 2, and from there it was just spending a lot of time on it and really digging into the program and all the different aspects that it has to offer, and learning each one as well as I can. And it literally allowed me to start my own business.
No, and I really like how you made this ring. You showed us how to use the freehand parts, how you can make any design using as I said, the 14 100 different freehand parts that we have. So you can, if you would like, you could keep adding different or even scrolls or any kind
Yeah,
of thing in this ring. So you can personalize it as much as you want. And this is
yeah,
the beauty of this software.
you can go crazy. Like I said, I've done a design with a Celtic knot pattern, which was background removal. So it's like this, where your engraving is the part that stands out. I'm not going to convert it now, but I was quoted on that engraving alone. I would have had to charge my client. Actually, I can convert it. Probably about $1,000 to engrave it by hand. In South Africa, it would be 14,000 Rand. That's what the client would have had to pay. And I could include it for them for a small design fee, and they didn't pay any extra for it. So the product that you can offer your client with these tools, I mean, you can imagine
amazing.
what it would cost to make a ring like this by hand.
Wow.
Just to
it's not just to make it, Bruno, it's to make it well. I mean, you know, as you were saying at the very beginning, the symmetry, the proportions, everything.
Of course. But I mean, just to show your client the design, imagine just drawing this by hand. It'll be a nightmare, and the client will never get a complete idea. Whereas here, without even rendering it, just showing to them like this, it gives you a perfect example of what you're looking at.
Well, I think that one of the reasons why I got involved in the CAD design is because when I'm drawing a piece of jewelry, I'm not good at all.
So, oh, no, I can do one dimensional. That's it. A top view is all you get. Yeah.
So this is where CAD software is helping you a lot to express your ideas in front of your customer. All right, Rhino, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate the walkthrough to your story with CounterSketch and your business. I think that for all the participants that we have today, I think that it has been a very, very beautiful story. And man, I hope to keep talking to you. And probably after a while, we can do another remote session, because there is always new stories to tell about any jeweler experience. So definitely, I would love in a few months meet again and have a nice chat like the one that we had today.
Perfect, and thank you for the invitation.
It has been a pleasure, Rhino. Thank you so much to share your experience.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Cheers. Bye-bye.